Let it be known that for all intents and purposes, I rock with trains, bruh. Like, I really think trains are a net benefit to society. With that said, if you're in an anime, stay away from trains, bro. You don't really realize how common trains are in anime until you realize how common trains are in anime. Like, to be fair, the frequency that trains show up in anime is probably just a reflection of the fact that Japan has an actual, functional, safe public railway system that doesn't involve crackheads or niggas role-playing as Spider-Man for no reason. But regardless of the reason why these trains show up so much, it can't be denied that trains are like low-key omnipresent in anime. I mean, think about it, bruh. Unless you're watching like a fantasy show or a period piece that is specifically set during a time in which trains did not yet exist, there's like a 99% chance that you're going to encounter at least one train scene in just about every anime you watch. And even okay, I just realized how crazy that sounds. Whoa. And even though one singular train scene per anime doesn't sound like much at first, that shit adds up, bro. Like, I'm pretty sure in the grand scheme of anime, there's probably more train scenes than there are healthy relationships. Now, according to that new Google AI feature that be lying its ass off half the time, Japan IRL is home to what's widely considered to be the world's safest train system. Granted, I don't know how stiff the competition really is when you're going up against shit like New York Transit with their 14-pound mutant rats, but hey, congrats to Japan because apparently y'all got some safe ass trains. So what's up with them anime trains then? Like, where did all that negativity come from? Look, I'm not even gonna beat around the bush right now, bro. Do not board a train in anime. You will die. You see, IRL trains are meant to be energy and cost efficient methods of transporting large groups of people from point A to point B. Like I said earlier, a net benefit to society. Anime trains, on the other hand, are essentially just giant metal death traps that the writers use to raise the stakes whenever they want to make some shit look serious. Do you really want your life to end up as aura fodder for some random villain that'll probably only have screen time for like 2 episodes? Me neither. And so today, ladies and gentlemen, we will be looking at various train incidents from various anime so that if you ever end up, I don't know, isekai'd into a fictional animated version of Japan, well, at least you'll know to, stay your ass away from them damn trains, bruh. Living in the Demon Slayer verse in general would kinda fucking suck because demons are sneaky, right? Like, a lot of demons kinda just implant themselves into random facets of human life so that they can feast upon the unsuspecting humans who interact with said facets of life. You wanna go pray at a temple? Yeah, well, there's a temple demon. You wanna go enjoy the city, perchance? Maybe enjoy the nightlife, if you know what I mean? Yeah, well, there's a demon for that too. 2 demons for that. In fact, kinda like a package deal sort of thing. Perhaps you're a fan of artwork, pottery, you want to collect pots. Yeah, well, demons can live in pots too, so fuck you. Nothing is sacred in the Demon Slayer verse. Just about anything you interact with can potentially lead you to an untimely death at the hands of a nigga who willingly caught Muzan AIDS. And so naturally, the safest and most efficient method of transportation at the time, aka train transportation, yeah, that shit's not safe either. Luckily, our friends in the Demon Slayer verse have come up with a method in which to handle the potentially existential threat that demons pose to humanity. This method involves sending a bunch of traumatized super minors in to go handle the dirty work. And if these super minors are really lucky, they may even get teamed up with a young adult chaperone who is really good at handling the dirty work. The Demon Slayer Mugen Train arc still probably stands as my favorite super minor mission that we've witnessed in the series so far. And this particular mission is set up exactly how I just described, with 4 minors and 1 young adult chaperone tasked with investigating and subsequently defeating a group of demons that are suspected to be using this train as a sort of Meals on Wheels type jaunt, like a big ass demon DoorDash group order or some shit. Now already, I'ma feel some type of way if I'm just a regular dude trying to catch a train ride and I see a buff ass nigga with a pig helmet get onto the train. Like, just off that imagery alone, they gonna have to turn that bitch back around and drop me off back at the station because I'm not riding with this nigga, bro. Like, bruh, imagine you're trying to catch a chill little train ride to 𝙏𝙖𝙡 or some shit and you got motherfucking John Pork over here doing front flips and trying to jump out the train, bro. Like, come on, man, the demons haven't even attacked yet and you're already on this type of bullshit. how does that make any sense to you? And then, as if that wasn't already enough bad passenger etiquette, we got the boy 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠 over here eating them goddamn bento boxes loud as hell for no reason. Like, it may sound like I'm just yapping and being picky right now, but nah, you can literally see the discomfort and annoyance on the passengers' faces as Rengoku screams at the top of his lungs after every bite. But anywho, as Tanjiro, Nezuko, Inosuke, Zenitsu, and the Adderall Hashira are all sitting on this train waiting for the aforementioned demons to show themselves, it doesn't take long for shit to start popping off and for the demons to start making their move. Now, the first two demons we see, I don't know what the fuck they were on, bro. They were low-key just there so that Rengoku could farm AMV clips off of one-shotting them. But once the actual main threat of the Mugen Train arc gets revealed, we begin to see just how wicked these anime trains can get, bro. And bear in mind, this is all despite the fact that the passengers of this train are lucky enough to have 5 superheroes on this train protecting them at all times. This is Enmu, aka Lower Moon 1, aka Muzan's greatest glazer. Enmu, thanks to his newly super boosted blood demon art, has access to an array of abilities that induce sleep upon his target. Basically, he can put niggas to sleep, keep them asleep, manipulate their dreams, so on and so forth. And so by using this blood demon art and a few human cronies that he extorted into working for him, Enmu basically plans to put the entire train to sleep so that he can kill them in their sleep and, you know, gobble them niggas up. Pause. Now, to make a long story short, this plan doesn't necessarily work out the way that Enmu had expected it to work. You see, Enmu, in executing his plan, severely underestimated just how insane our main characters really are. First, we got Tanjiro, right? You could say a lot about Tanjiro, but one thing you gotta respect bro for is his resolve, because after he realizes that Enmu has him trapped in a dream, bro proceeds to self-neck chop to release himself from the dream, which is actually insane, by the way. Like, yeah, he freed himself from the dream, congrats, but like, dog, you good? After Tanjiro, we got Rengoku. Rengoku isn't able to free himself from the dream like Tanjiro is, but he is able to squabble in his sleep, and so yeah, you can try to kill that nigga in his sleep if you want. You gonna find out real soon that the nigga Rengoku can literally beat your ass with his eyes closed. Everyone else, you don't really gotta worry about them. Their dreams are low-key played off as jokes, and their roles in the movie altogether are relatively minor, but eventually, after everyone wakes up thanks to Nezuko's plot demon art, Tanjiro ends up making his way up to the top of the train where he goes to square off with Enmu. Most demons in Demon Slayer use some degree of both magic and hand-to-hand combat to fight, right? Like, they're essentially double trouble in the sense that they can beat your ass with hands or beat your ass with sparkly blood powers depending on what the situation calls for. Enmu is not that. Enmu has essentially min-maxed himself into being a magic specialist. He relies almost entirely on his Ippy magic to put his opponent out of commission before they can damage him. And even though this strat has presumably worked well enough for him up until now, once he starts running into the real fucking freaks of nature like Tanjiro and them, this strategy suddenly starts to seem a lot more flimsy than it probably did before. Tanjiro gets on that nigga's ass, bruh. Pause. He actually ends up chopping off Enmu's dome, which at the time was like a guaranteed method to kill demons, but unfortunately for Tanjiro, it's actually at this point in the story that they kind of double back on that whole decapitation thing with the demons, and yeah, basically every non-fodder demon from Enmu moving forward is equipped with some sort of extra ability that makes killing them more complicated than simply chopping their head off. For Enmu, this extra ability allows him to turn the entirety of the Mugen Train into his body. Like, he was able to physically absorb the Mugen Train so that he was the Mugen Train. It's honestly as weird and gross and convoluted as it sounds, but yeah, that brings us back into another reason that I would hate to be a passenger on the Mugen Train. I'm not trying to be sitting in Enmu's guts, bro, like, pause. But come on, bro, what if some like spare Muzan glaze drips on me while I'm sitting there? Like, I'm just not trying to deal with all that. Anyway, at this point, our Demon Slayers split up into 2 separate teams, right? Tanjiro and Inosuke are on the top of the train trying to slice through Enmu's spine, which is also a part of the train car, by the way, on like some real body horror nasty type shit. And meanwhile, while this is going down, Rengoku and them are inside the train trying to fight off Enmu's little funky ass tendril intestine things that he's been using to eat the passengers, who are still asleep in the midst of all this chaos, by the way. To make a long story short, with the help of his pig disciple Inosuke, Samurai Jesus is able to slice through Enmu's weird train neck thingy, right? But you see, the thing about this maneuver right here is that Tanjiro puts absolutely zero thought into the consequences of his actions. And so naturally, by chopping off the literal engine of a train with a big ass fireball spin move, Tanjiro sends the rest of the train cars flying off the rails in a big ass dramatic explosion of Enmu guts and whatnot. Like, I'm not gonna lie right now, I understand having the Demon Slayers survive this train crash since they're basically like sword wizards, but let's be completely truthful and honest right now, every other civilian on this train had no business surviving this crash, bro. And I know that canonically Rengoku saved them all somehow, but like, come on, man, what the fuck could Rengoku have possibly done to save all these niggas, bro? Buckle in their seatbelts at super speed? Like, come on, bro. Anyway, I would say they all lived happily ever after thanks to the heroism of our Demon Slayers, but yeah, that would be a lie. And so instead of having to relive the Rengoku penetration incident of 2021, I want to transition from talking about demon trains to talking about zombie trains. The world of Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress isn't all that much different from the world of Demon Slayer that we were just talking about. At least not in terms of like basic premise, that is. Where the world of Demon Slayer has demons, the world of Kabaneri has these zombies that are called kabane. Now, just like the demons in Demon Slayer, these kabane come with their own set of issues that make them a potentially existential threat to the well-being of humanity as a whole. First off, we got the whole zombie aspect, right? Kabane function in your typical zombie-esque manner, where if they bite you, it's a GG, you're one of them now. But unlike normal zombies that can be taken out with a couple of well-placed bullets to the dome, kabane have these hearts made out of iron that you have to blast out of their bodies if you wish to kill them. As part of an ongoing effort to not go extinct, humanity has developed a plethora of technologies that they use to fight back against the kabane. But central to all of these anti-kabane innovations are the 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠. The 𝙏𝙖𝙡 are basically these giant armored trains that are used to transport people and supplies from one train station to another. You see, because of the kabane, civilization has essentially split itself up into various settlements that are built around giant train stations. And so naturally, in order to go from train station to train station, you need giant fucking trains that can carry a lot of people and a lot of goods, all while not folding under the pressure of like hundreds, maybe thousands of zombies at the same time. There's also like, you know, anime type shit, half kabane warriors that fight against the kabane, so on and so forth. Don't really worry about all that right now, like just go watch the show after this video or something. For now, we're just talking about these demonic ass train rides and why your ass would not want to be a passenger aboard the Iron Fortress. Now already, just off the setup of this plot alone, I don't think I need to elaborate on why these train rides would suck buns, right? I mean, imagine you're one of these train refugees. You barely get any eats, barely any water, you're stuck in this big ass, hot ass iron tank, and it probably smells like inner ass cheeks since y'all can't afford to waste water for baths. You got mad zombies jumping the train around every corner, and then, to make matters worse, you got two half zombies aboard the train that you barely know anything about since you're not one of the MCs. Yeah, man, this shit sounds fucking ass. I think one particularly ass section of the story, at least for the residents of the Iron Fortress that is, comes at about the halfway point in the season when our passengers are already well on their way to their destination. They're already dealing with a lack of resources, kabane getting inside the train, interpersonal turmoil about what to do with the half zombie niggas, a whole bunch of shit. And so when the train ends up running into a massive fused colony of zombies called the Black Smoke, yeah, nobody is really trying to deal with all that right now. We cut to the inside of the train, and on the inside of this train, one of our half zombie warriors named 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠 is explaining to the rest of the strike force that if they want to kill the Black Smoke, they'll have to take out the heart of the cluster, which is like this one singular kabane in its core that's powering the entire colony. Now 𝙏𝙏𝙡, she's kind of a dog, right? She's like an absolute kabane killing unit, and so they decide to put 𝙏𝙏𝙡 in charge of killing the core kabane, while the rest of the team will focus on clearing out a path for her to get a clean shot on this so-called core. Once the Black Smoke starts chasing the train, the operation is officially a go, and the engineers aboard the train start hooking up this steam cannon that they can use to blast the Black Smoke. As the engineers are aiming the cannon, the strike force climbs onto the top of the train so that they can handle any loose kabane. But you see, the problem here is that, well, let's just say there's a reason that the IRL army separates the engineers and the tank operators into two separate jobs, because why the hell would an engineer have any idea how to operate a tank cannon? Our heroes aboard the Iron Fortress quickly come to understand the value of specialized labor after they have an engineer take and subsequently brick the first shot at the Black Smoke. This shot is so bad, in fact, that it actually makes everyone's jobs harder by causing a bunch of loose kabane to fly off the Black Smoke and onto the top of the train. Now, of course, we have our strike strike team up there to handle that, right? And you know there's nothing that anime characters love more than a large group of enemies that they can fodderize for AMV clips. Shout out my nigga Rengoku. And so sure enough, our two melee members of the strike force start getting busy on the kabane, bro. They start running through these zombies one by one while simultaneously draining the animation budget of tens of thousands of dollars as they do so. When it comes to getting rid of the kabane one-on-one, the strike force got it, right? Like they got those zombies up out of their low key. But like I said before, this isn't just your regular old one-on-one kabane squabble, okay? The Iron Fortress still has this giant cluster of zombies chasing after it. And so once the leader of the Iron Fortress, this princess chick named 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠, gets word that the black smoke is starting to pick up the pace, she relays that word to the conductor of the train, who she also directs to put the train into what's essentially super speed mode. But as she's attempting to do so, she notices that something got lodged within one of the train's gear shift mechanisms. And so she ends up sending one of her crewmates down to the bottom of the train to go handle that. As the crewmate is trying to dislodge this chunk of zombie flesh that got stuck in the train's gear shift, the engineer dude is still in the upper part of the train trying to aim the tank cannon for his second shot at the black smoke. Fortunately for the passengers of the Iron Fortress, at the very last moment, the crewmate manages to rip the chunk of flesh out of the train's axle, which allows the train to pick up speed. And as this is happening, the engineer takes his second shot at the black smoke, this time clutching up and blasting the cluster exactly where it needed to be hit in order to give 𝙏𝙖𝙡 a clean shot at the heart of the cluster. 𝙏𝙏𝙡 jumps into the core of the cluster and stabs the bayonet of her gun right into the core kabane, which causes the entire cluster to explode. But just when everybody thinks that they're finally safe, right? Just when all the passengers think that they can catch a break, the train hits this curve while still going at max speed. And as it hits this curve, it starts to tilt over the edge of the cliff, threatening to fall off the rails entirely if it keeps up at this pace. Since everyone aboard the train has the mutual interest of like not wanting to die, the main characters and the NPCs alike all team up to push the train back onto the rails. And yeah, they're eventually able to push that jump back on track where it needs to be so that they can resume their journey of blood, death, and despair. Our next train incident takes us across the world, from fictional sci-fi Japan all the way over to fictional sci-fi Europe, fictional sci-fi England to be exact. In the world of Princess Principal, the country of England is called Albion, and unlike IRL, in this universe, Albion is by far the strongest country in the world. After a civil war called the London Revolution, the land of Albion was split into two separate nations: the Kingdom, where all the rich and royal niggas live, and the Commonwealth, where literally everyone else lives. The narrative of Princess Principal follows 5 high school girls in the kingdom that are actually Commonwealth spies. Well, actually only 2 of these girls are Commonwealth spies. One of them is actually a kingdom princess named Charlotte who wishes to usurp the throne. Another is Charlotte's court lady named Beatrice, and the last is like this little samurai girl from Japan who's basically like their little hitman assassin type teammate. But all 5 of these girls together make up a team called the White Pigeon. And the White Pigeon, kinda like the Demon Slayers, is another team of super minors put in charge of handling things that the adults in charge don't want to get their hands dirty with. To be honest, I could go on and on in regards to how insane the premise of this series is. Like, I've only really scratched the surface of that which is Princess Principal, but I think for the time being I've given enough background context for us to be able to get into the show's train incident, since I mean, that's still the main topic of the video, right? Like, let's not get too distracted here. About halfway through Princess Principal, we get a flashback episode that explains to us how 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠, the Japanese samurai girl, ended up joining the Commonwealth spies on their effort to overthrow the kingdom elites. This episode starts off with a Japanese leader named Lord Horikawa coming to visit the kingdom, and sent to greet Lord Horikawa on behalf of the royal family is Charlotte, the princess who's actually the Commonwealth spy and wants to take over the throne, and yeah, you get the idea. Now, for all intents and purposes, this should be a normal political meeting, right? Like, I think Lord Horikawa wanted to like renegotiate trade deals with the queen or something along those lines. But the bigger picture at play here is the fact that Lord Horikawa has had a band of assassins trying to kill him these past few months. And these assassins are apparently led by a man named Todo Jubei. Before long, they're all on this train, chilling, making their way through the countryside of Albion, but midway through the train ride, this girl dressed up in like a ninja samurai type suit jumps off of the bridge and onto the train for reasons that to us as viewers are still unknown. One of the spies, this girl named 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠, who's basically like the team leader, suddenly senses a presence on the roof of the train, since you know, any anime character worth their snuff can sense the presence of ops whenever they get near. And so Anj ends up going up to the roof of the train to confront this mysterious samurai girl, asking her who she is and what exactly she's doing on the train. Anj is like, "Are you Todo Jubei?" And the girl is like, "Nah, but I can sense that you have 3 handguns concealed all over your body, so like, what's up, homegirl? What you trying to get into right now?" As these two are talking, one of Anj's teammates gets onto the train as well, and for some reason she like immediately assumes that the girl is Todo Jubei. I'm not gonna lie, the European niggas are like canonically pretty racist towards the Japanese niggas throughout the course of this entire episode.
This is so strange. Are they all like this?
But after Anja's teammate takes the first shot, the samurai girl suddenly locks in, deflecting the bullet and proceeding to 2v1 both of these spies with nothing but a sword to her name. Now, of course, in typical anime fashion, the first exchange we see go down between these 3 girls is just a warm-up, right? Like on some "we're just getting started" type shit. But before these 2 high school girls actually end up getting serious and murdering each other on top of this train, one of Horikawa's men gets on top of the train and he's like, "Both of y'all, chill, we're on the same team, neither of y'all are the assassin." We cut back to the inside of the train a few minutes later, and this time when we're in the train, we find out that this samurai girl, whose name is 𝙏𝙖, had basically followed Horikawa to Albion with the sole intent of killing Todo Jubei. For some reason, 𝙏𝙖 wants vengeance against Todo, and because she figured that Todo would follow Horikawa to Albion, she basically decided to sneak there with him and wait for Todo Jubei to show himself. 𝙏𝙖 and Anj start arguing because Anj doesn't trust the girl who willingly chose to go behind her lord's back so that she could have a grudge match. But Charlotte, the princess, is ultimately like, "Hey y'all, stop arguing and get along, because if Todo Jubei does show up, the more hands we have on deck, the better." Anj and 𝙏𝙖, despite kinda hating each other at this point, forced themselves to get along for the sake of their respective leaders, right? And after a bunch of yapping and going forth about, I guess, their respective experiences coming from different sides of the globe, the 2 girls are able to find enough common ground to get along, or at the very least tolerate each other for the remainder of the train ride. Fast forward a little bit and we end up discovering that, as expected, there's more than meets the eye to this seemingly peaceful train ride across the countryside. Apparently, one of the guards that's on the train to protect Charlotte is actually locked in with the Duke of Normandy, who is basically like the main villain of the show, and come to find out, the Duke of Normandy is actually tapped in with Todo Jubei himself, and he hopes to send Jubei to kill both Charlotte and Horikawa in like a 2-for-1 special type deal. Of course, back on the train, nobody thinks that Todo Jubei is actually going to show up, right? Like, the train ride is almost over at this point and the nigga still has yet to show his face. But 𝙏𝙖, who is now scouting for Todo with the telescope, is like, "Yo," she's talking to Anj, right? And she's like, "Yo, you gotta trust me. I know Todo Jubei is coming, bro. Like, please stay vigilant." And it's at this point that 𝙏𝙖 reveals her beef with Todo Jubei, explaining that the man had quote-unquote killed her father and that she refused to rest until she avenged her father by killing Todo himself. As these two are talking about 𝙏𝙖's anime-ass backstory, the guard who was secretly working for the Duke of Normandy makes his way outside the train car in order to detach the guard car from the rest of the train. But as he's attempting to pull this off, he gets caught in the act by one of our spy girls, who proceeds to shoot him in the shoulder in order to stop him. The guard then proceeds to blow both himself and the spy girl up because the mission must go on. I guess I respect the dedication. But when 𝙏𝙖 and Anj hear this explosion coming from the other end of the train, they both quickly make their way across the train towards the explosion so that they can figure out what exactly is going on right now. Turns out, the turncoat soldier was successful in his mission. Thanks to the explosion, he was able to detach the train car that Horikawa and Charlotte were riding in from the rest of the train, particularly the train cars where the guards were stationed. Now this is when shit starts getting real crazy, bruh, because apparently there is a second railroad that runs parallel to the main railroad that Charlotte's train is on. And so Todo Jubei and his boys proceed to pull up on this second railroad with a train of their own before hitting Charlotte's train car with like a fucking samurai train cannon drive-by. Dog, what? I'm not even gonna lie to you right now, bro. This has gotta be one of those rare moments in media consumption where you get to witness a truly original idea, because when in your life, correct me if I'm wrong, but when in your life have you ever seen a samurai train cannon drive-by before? Like, bro, that is actually original. Who cooked that? But cut back to the train car that was snipped off of the rest of the train, and we're seeing Anj and 𝙏𝙖 as they're checking in on Anj's teammate, who was apparently able to survive a whole explosion to the face with seemingly minor injuries. Anj's teammate, whose name is Dorothy by the way, is like, look Anj, I'll be okay, but you two need to get over to that other train car to save the princess. Anj looks back at Dorothy and she's like, yeah, you right. And speaking of trains, I don't know if you can hear that, but that's a train passing by right there. Anj looks back at Dorothy and she's like, yeah, you right. And so she and 𝙏𝙖 proceed to use her anti-gravity device to catch up to the other train and square off with 𝙏𝙖 and his men. Now at first, I'm not even gonna lie to you right now, these high school girls were getting absolutely busy on these grown-ass ninjas, man. I mean, 𝙏𝙖 alone took down like 3 of them in 5 seconds, but as the 2 of them are preparing to fight 𝙏𝙖 himself, Anj notices that the 2 trains are on a collision course since the railroad up ahead merges the 2 separate train tracks into each other. It's at this point that 𝙏𝙖 and Anj split up, right? 𝙏𝙖 ends up hitting back into the train so that she can square off with 𝙏𝙖, who at this point has made his way into the train car with the princess in them. And while 𝙏𝙖 is trying to catch up with 𝙏𝙖, Anj is busy trying to stop the train somehow so that they can avoid a catastrophic collision that takes the lives of literally everyone involved. 𝙏𝙖 starts making his way towards the 2 world leaders, right? Making quick work of both Horikawa's samurai and Charlotte's court lady. But just before 𝙏𝙖 is able to raise his blade against Horikawa or Charlotte, 𝙏𝙖 slides through and starts giving this man 𝙏𝙖 the get back squabble of a lifetime, which gives Charlotte the opportunity to slip away and help Anj in her efforts to stop the impending train collision. As the 2 trains near the junction, Charlotte pulls the brake so that the trains reach a halt just before they collide. And as the train cars are stopping, 𝙏𝙖 uses the momentum from the cars to get the best of 𝙏𝙖, shattering his blade with her own before stabbing him through his midsection. Later that evening, after everything is cooled down, we get some 𝙏𝙖 lore where we find out the truth about her relationship with 𝙏𝙖. Turns out 𝙏𝙖's full name is actually 𝙏𝙖, and 𝙏𝙖 was actually her father, who trained her in swordsmanship before becoming the traitorous assassin that the modern day 𝙏𝙖 is. Or was, rather. So yeah, 𝙏𝙖's father never actually died, at least not until today, but she more so meant that he had gotten killed metaphorically, in the sense that he wasn't the same father that she had known growing up. He was dead to her, I suppose. Anyway, as thanks to Princess Charlotte for basically saving his life on multiple fronts, Horikawa ends up having fictional Japan strike a secret alliance with the Commonwealth of Albion. And as part of this alliance, 𝙏𝙖 gets sent over to the kingdom to go live with and become a long-term spy girl team member of the White Pigeon. Now at this point, we've been through 3 separate train incidents in this video, and even though all of these incidents have had their own unique premises and executions, I feel like at a base level, all of these train incidents have low-key been the exact same thing. High-octane, race against the clock, combat-oriented missions where our hero party is going up against the villain party within the confines of a train. Now sure, on one train there may have been demons, on another zombies, and on another Japanese niggas, but even with these particular aesthetic differences, the overall vibe of the incidents has been, well, pretty repetitive. So what do you say we switch up the vibe a little bit? One of the most unique anime I've encountered in terms of overall vibe is a 2007 anime from Toei Animation called Mononoke. The story of Mononoke follows a Japanese medicine seller who's also a slayer of vengeful spirits called Mononoke. In order to exercise these vengeful spirits, the medicine seller needs a special sword. But in order to access this special sword during any given slaying, the medicine seller must first uncover the spirit's shape, truth, and reason. In other words, he basically has to solve the mysteries of what type of vengeful spirit he's dealing with, what the origin of said vengeful spirit is, and why this vengeful spirit is even vengeful in the first place. Compared to the other shows that we've talked about so far, Mononoke takes on more of a mystery type plot, where each arc, the medicine seller attempts to gather info on the vengeful spirits by interviewing the people who are being haunted by the spirits. However, solving these mysteries is never as simple as a mere interrogation, seeing as though people can be pretty dishonest, especially when we're dealing with the types of people who got vengeful spirits on their ass looking for a get back. Now once again, this is just the brief, bare bones, minimum amount of context needed to understand the train incident that we're about to get into, because without any sort of context, especially for this show, this whole section of the video wouldn't make half of a lick of sense. But as I said last time with Princess Principal, and as I say with basically every underrated series I cover on this channel, I really can't recommend this series enough. Like, like, if you find this segment of the video interesting, I highly recommend you go check out Mononoke for yourself. Anyway, cut to the episode at hand, and we start off by getting a look at this train track where a woman suddenly falls out of the sky and onto the track. Now, the Mononoke universe is moderately realistic. Like, despite its crazy presentation from a visual standpoint, the universe is realistic in the sense that if a woman falls out of the sky and onto a train track, that woman is gonna die, alright? Like, there ain't no Demon Slayer flip train survival miracles in this universe. But anywho, as the woman is laying on the track, probably bleeding out, she notices a small cat walking towards her. Obviously, she's unable to move because she probably shattered every bone in her goddamn body thanks to the fall. But as the cat is nearing her, we get a glimpse into the woman's thoughts, and the one thing that we hear this woman thinking as she lays on the railroad that's most likely her deathbed are 3 words: I won't forgive you. I won't forgive you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's 4. We cut to a train station called the Fukuju train station, and apparently today is the grand opening of the Fukuju train station. Now at this train station grand opening, we get a look at this mayor who's addressing his constituents. He's like, blah blah blah, I'm so glad you all could be here to celebrate this grand opening with me. Just like, you know, normal public facing mayoral politics type shit. But before long, the mayor makes his way down to the subway station and he gets onto the train so that he can be a part of this train's inaugural ride through the Fukuju train station. As the train takes off, we get a look inside of each of the train's 4 cars. Most of the people in these cars are like literal NPCs, like they're literally just illustrated as like these blank 3D mannequins. But as each of these train cars passes by the camera, we get a look at the important characters in each car that'll soon be involved with the train incident at hand. In the first car, we have the mayor's assistant, and a journalist. In the second car, we have this little fat nose ass kid who's just happy to be there. In the third car, we have a middle-aged looking lady who's wearing a slight scowl. And lastly, in the fourth car, we have this pretty young woman, and not to mention the medicine seller himself. The train takes off through the subway tunnel, and at first everything is going as expected, right? Just a regular everyday train ride through a regular everyday train tunnel. However, after the conductor of the train sees a hallucination of a woman that looks suspiciously similar to our sky falling woman from earlier, he suddenly pulls the brakes on the train, which sends all of the train's passengers tumbling forward. Well, all the train's NPCs go tumbling forward. The 6 passengers that I highlighted earlier, on the other hand, suddenly find themselves teleported into the first train car. The passengers within the first car spend a few minutes trying to figure out why exactly they were all brought together into this car. But after making no progress on that front, the 2 women in the car decide that they're going to head back to their original train car, only to find that they're unable to open the door that leads to the rest of the train. When he sees the 2 women struggling, our benevolent Mr. Mayor tries to help them get the door open. But upon finally getting the door unlodged, our first car passengers find that once opened, the door that should lead back to the second car actually leads to nowhere. Suddenly the train sparks to life, right? And bear in mind, the conductor is no longer controlling this train, which is now seemingly acting with a mind of its own. The train starts speeding down the railroad at breakneck speed, which causes the mayor to fly out of the train. And it's only after the mayor is killed that the medicine seller suddenly enters the first car from the other side, stepping into the car so that he can exercise the mononoke that's clearly been making things run afoul in this train car. Now, the door to this first car is essentially acting as like a one-way portal, right? Almost like on some domain expansion type shit. In other words, you can enter the first car from the second car, but you can't go back to the second car from the first car. Like if you try to do so, the rest of the train will just disappear. After seeing this phenomenon occur, the medicine seller is like, oh yeah, there's definitely a mononoke at play here. And so the medicine seller proceeds to open up this big ass box where he keeps all of his mononoke slaying tools, and he takes out these little scales that magnetically point in the direction of the mononoke like compass needles. As all of the scales rise to the ceiling of the train car, the medicine seller is like, well, the mononoke brought all of you into this train car for a reason, and I don't know how, but each of you must be connected to its death somehow. All the passengers start looking at one another, right? They're like, connected to a death? Bro, we don't even know each other. Like, what the fuck are you talking about connected to a death? And the medicine seller is like, look bro, y'all can keep sitting here and role playing like you're innocent if you want, but none of us are getting off this train until y'all start to fess up. And so, yeah, if you want to make it to your destination anytime soon, I advise you niggas stop stop lying so that I can get to the bottom of what exactly is going on here. Now, the passengers in this train car end up spending like the next episode and a half lying their asses off, right? Just going back and forth, cap after cap, lie after lie, each of them trying to absolve themselves of any blame while simultaneously trying to pin the blame on another person that's in the train car. As all this cap is going down, the vengeful spirit is just watching, right? She's just like sitting there and watching all these people lie on her name over and over again. And so after getting fed up with all the cap, in order to get these liars to start telling the truth, the mononoke proceeds to start haunting them even harder, afflicting each of them with hallucinations related to how they witnessed her death. Now, before we get into these hallucinations, let's dive into the death itself. You see, the woman that we saw fall onto the train track at the beginning of the episode was a woman named Setsuko Ichikawa. Setsuko was a journalist that worked for the other journalist dude that's in the train car right now. And after Setsuko started to dig up some evidence of the mayor participating in bribery and other foul play to get this new train station open, the mayor conceived a plot to get Setsuko up out of there while making it look like it was a self-despawn the entire time. A self-despawn meaning, you know, words I can't really say on YouTube if I don't want to get demonetized. The reason the mayor got clapped up by this vengeful spirit first, which is a vengeful cat spirit called a 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠 by the way, but the reason the mayor got clapped first was because the mayor was directly responsible for Setsuko's death. Like, he was the one pulling the strings in the background to silence her. Everyone else, on the other hand, they all had varying levels of complicity to the crime. Like, each of them fall on a different part of the spectrum of guiltiness, if that makes any sense. And so as a get back, each of them are punished according to their involvement with the death of Setsuko. Like the little kid, for instance, he saw the murder happen but didn't report it to anyone out of fear, and so because he saw the murder, he was cursed with like these visual hallucinations. The young woman, she knew Setsuko personally and could tell that something was up during her last days, but because she didn't intervene and because she decided to stay silent the whole time, she was cursed so that her mouth was mad itchy. And yeah, you get the idea. Silence, mouth, so on and so forth. The journalist, despite trying to protect Setsuko at first and burn the evidence that she was digging up, ultimately ends up being the one that pushes the woman to her death. And so yeah, the 𝙏𝙖𝙡𝙠 gets on bro's ass for having done that, bro. I think his punishment was probably the worst of them all. The detective who investigated the death and ruled it a self-despawn was actually in the mayor's pocket, and so he gets punished for having covered up the murder. And lastly, the medicine seller, after the truth has come out and everyone has had their respective judgment cast upon them, is like, okay, time to slay this mononoke, and he proceeds to do so in the most flashy, visually stunning manner possible. Like, again, bro, the vibes of Mononoke, absolutely unmatched.